What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Doing some shipping, and while I'm putting labels on everything, I'm gonna just try something different. Try to have a few topics and just kind of talk through those topics and, just have a conversation. Some of the things I'll be having like 1,000 things going through my mind sometime, but I know that these probably are some of the things that other people like you are thinking about. If you're doing this reselling thing as a hobby, part-time, full-time, whatever it may be, you just might have questions or just might wonder about some things. But I got about 4 topics that I want to try to get through. I don't know how long this is going to take. It shouldn't take that long, though. I just gotta put things in envelopes and get them out. But I want to talk about running sales and just having to continually run sales to get sales and price tanking and around that whole thing. Everybody's talking about sales being slower and things like that and price tankers and all that stuff. So talk about some of that. Second thing is just the future of reselling, layoffs and things of that nature and all this other stuff going on in the world. What does the future of reselling look like? Number 3 would be how to be profitable selling liquidation, and just some few points on that. Nothing too deep, because there's a lot that you can talk about and there's a whole lot of ways that you can go with it. And then the last thing is just kind of like, success rates for small businesses, entrepreneurs in general. Technically, most of us wouldn't be classified as a small business, but still, if you are in business for yourself, quote unquote, a small business, right? So just kind of get started, and I'm gonna start kind of packing these up and talk while I go. But the first thing is, just talking about running sales, having to continually run sales just to get sales, okay? And I feel like there's nothing wrong with running sales, right? You want to use sales and promotions to get as many sales as you can, but you got to use them strategically. You got to use them strategically, and you don't want to use them too much. I feel like, and this is going to be specifically in reference to just selling on eBay, right? Because, yeah, you can use coupons and things like that on Amazon. Walmart, I really haven't seen anything on there that allows you to do the sale thing or coupon thing for that matter. So this definitely wouldn't be in reference to those two. So this would be specifically in reference to eBay, running sales on eBay. I feel like a lot of people, a lot of sellers, they use sales more as a crutch, right? And not in a strategic business-like manner to say, I have a product that's in demand that the customer wants, and here and there I am going to use sales to drive even more traffic, maybe at strategic points, to boost those sales or to boost that product or to boost awareness of that product or whatever it may be. But if you look at the majority of people that talk about using sales, okay, a lot of people will say, oh, you mark your item above market value, then you run a fake sale to make it seem like it's a deal for the customer. However, I think that, one, you are disrespecting the customer's intelligence, because most consumers are smart enough to know the difference between a good deal and a contrived deal, I guess, if you want to say it that way, right? An artificial deal. People aren't stupid. And yeah, you might get that occasional buyer here and there that kind of falls for it and might think it's a deal and actually buy your product, but for the most part, they're not going to. So what do you have when that happens, right? You have slow sales. Here's the thing though, if you gotta keep running sales for your items to sell, then one, you either have substandard products, or two, which is most likely the case, and this could be in conjunction with that, you probably overpricing your items, okay? So you need to bring your prices down to market value if you actually want to get the sale. And look, by no means am I saying don't use sales and promotions on eBay and coupons and things like that. For sure, definitely use them. But I think that you need to start thinking more strategically about how you're going to tactically implement sales, promotions, and coupons. and not just run them because you're not getting sales. Because if you're not getting any, if your sales are really, really slow, really, really bad, or almost non-existent, without you running a promotion, then something is wrong with your store, with the products that you're selling and providing to the customer. And that is basically that's the consumer talking back to you. That's what you got to realize, is that consumers speak. And how do they speak? They speak by not buying. They don't purchase. If they don't like your item, or if they don't think that your item is a good deal compared to other items like it in the market, they're going to let you know that by not buying it. And so this is the thing that I think a lot of resellers don't do, is they don't listen to that consumer feedback. You don't listen to that consumer feedback by asking yourself, okay, well, number one, if these items are not that much in demand, I do need to get rid of these and start sourcing more in-demand products, number one. And number two, what's going on with my pricing? Like, you can't just charge what you want to charge and think that the consumer is going to pay that. You have to actually charge what the market demands that you charge. And if that's not a price that's okay with you, then you need to source other types of items. Like, you can't just say, oh, well, I think this is worth $50 if it's only worth 20. And then you think that you're going to price it at 70 and run a fake sale and charge 50 and think the consumer's going to be dumb enough to buy that. No, it's going to sit there, man. It's probably going to sit there forever. And then you're going to, like, you get these offers and stuff, and you don't want to accept the offers. And then finally you just accept the offer for the 2025 that it was worth in the first place. And so, you know, try to look more at sales as a tool. Sales and coupons as a tool that you can strategically use to grow your business, not as something that it's not a deception, right? You don't want to try to be deceptive with it. And it's definitely not something you want to overuse, because if you find yourself, again, having to overuse it, then you have some issues. And the issue is not the consumer. The issue is not the platform, i.e. eBay. The issue is more likely something that starts with you and the products that you're selling, probably, or the way that you're pricing. It's something in your business that's the issue. And that's what you need to figure out as far as that goes. And then that takes me to just the whole price tanking thing, right? And where do you get price tanking from? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the things that I think leads to price tanking is the fact that most people don't know what they're doing. Most people have no idea what they're doing in this business, man. And it doesn't even take a rocket scientist to figure that part out. All you got to do is just watch people, watch these channels and go through the groups and listen. Look, I know sometimes some sellers, especially bigger sellers, will, you know, maybe like tank the price to get rid of the competition. But that really don't happen all that often. Or maybe somebody come in who had a lot of one product and they kind of undersell the market. But you know, that's few and far. When you start seeing multiple sellers tanking the price on something, that just is a symptom to let you know that these people don't know what they're doing, man. They ain't all in cahoots, right? I feel like, look, if you make a bad buy, like me, if I make a bad buy, I'll definitely try to get rid of it faster by undercutting people. Or I'll just kind of take it and bundle it up and sell it all off and just get rid of it. Like, that's been kind of like my main way to get rid of bad buys is, all right, it's been a few months. This ain't moving. I'm going to try to bundle it up. I don't even care. Like, I'm going to try to get as much as I can for it, right? I'm not about to, like, just keep selling it for, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, you know, undercutting the market and tanking the price and all like that. Because, like, there's sweat equity to go into that, right? Material costs, time costs. So why would I even do that in the first place? You gotta, and this is something that I struggle with myself, right? And I've struggled with in the past, is just being patient enough to wait for the sale. Look, here's the thing. If you want something that sells fast, then you have to source those type of items. I mean, if you understand what it is that you're sourcing, right? Understand the products that you're sourcing, then that should help you, that should influence your behavior as a seller as far as your expectations on how long you might have to wait for a sale. and this is bad buys aside, right? Bad buys aside. If you know you source something that has a very high sell-through, then you good. But if you source something that doesn't, you need to understand that and be willing to wait for that. Don't just come in and mess up the whole market, man. I don't know what's going on with some of these people, and it's not just eBay. It's all platforms, right? It's all platforms. Only one I don't really see it on that much is Walmart, and that's because it ain't oversaturated yet. I mean, it's Amazon. Everybody already know about Amazon and how that go. But I mean, as far as the categories I sell in on Walmart, it ain't super oversaturated, and so you don't really see that price taking like that over there, which is a good thing. Which is a really good thing, and I hope it stays that way for a very long time to come, man. But like on eBay and Amazon, and I don't know about Poshmark because I don't sell on Poshmark, but on those two, eBay and Amazon, the price tankers is in full effect. Like on Amazon, if you got a repricer, which most sellers do, right? Why would you set your repricer to underbid a penny or however much to get the buy box? Like, why would you? Here's the thing where I'm talking about where people don't even think, okay? You know, if you within, I think it's what, 5%? 5% of the buy box or something like that, right? Amazon's going to rotate the buy box. Now, yeah, you know, a listing can go from 5 sellers to 30 sellers, you know, just like that. And it sucks. It really do suck. But the answer is not to keep undercutting each other until an item that's selling for $30 and making you $10 profit is selling for $10 and making you and getting you a loss, right? That's not the answer, man. That's not the answer. At least match the buy box price, or just set your repricer to be within that 5% range of the buy box, and eventually Amazon will rotate you out, you know, and you'll get some sales in there. And if it's just a bad buy, it's a bad buy. Try to get rid of it and move on and call it a day. But most people ain't doing that, right? And so this is the nonsensical aspect of it. So if you're running sales, try to start thinking about how you're running sales, how you're going about that. Don't run fake sales. That's stupid. That's stupid. It's a waste of time and effort. Why would you go in, set a price higher just to run a sale to make it lower, to make it seem like a deal? That's ridiculous, okay? It makes no types of business sense whatsoever. Price your item at market value. Use sales strategically to drive traffic to that item, to your store at specific times and intervals, okay? Anything else, don't even worry about it. Coupons. Use coupons. You know, you can use the coupons and the newsletters and things like that, especially when it comes to customer loyalty, people who bought from you, your followers and things like that. That's fine and dandy. But if you can't drive traffic and get sales without running this sale, then you need to reevaluate your business. You need to look at your products and ask yourself, what are you doing wrong, and fix that, okay? Which brings me to the next thing that I want to talk about. And that's just the whole future of reselling in general. I'm definitely not one of those people who think that reselling is doomed and it's just going to come to an end and all resellers are going to go out of business and have nothing to sell. That's just foolishness. I mean, if you look over the course of history, people have been reselling since there's been things to resell. So there's always going to be a market for used items, because some people want, you know, certain types of things, but they don't want to pay full market price for those things. And so they'll be willing to pay to get those same items at a discount, and especially if they're in really good condition. You know what I mean? But I mean, if you're looking at the landscape right now, you got a lot of layoffs going on, right? Walmart's announcing, was it? Almost 2,000 more layoffs or something like that. Company after company making layoffs. A lot of these companies, I think I heard something where it said Walmart within the next 3 years is going to be 85% of the store is going to be automated. I don't know, something like that. In other words, they're trying to move away from having so many people working and automating the process, right? What does that mean? You know, a lot of people out of jobs. That's a whole nother conversation, because I feel like as an individual, you need to be giving yourself skills so that you don't have to worry about a job like Walmart. You know, if you worried that the robots are going to take over your job, then do something about it, and that means making yourself better in some way and making yourself more valuable. But that's a whole nother conversation for another time. But you got the layoffs, you got shipping rates. You know, they're going up all the time. The USPS is talking about this whole new shipping thing where they got the I don't know what it's called, ground something, but I mean, everybody's heard about it at this point. It's supposed to be going into effect somewhere in July, you know, this summer sometime. And who knows what those rates are going to look like. Maybe they'll be beneficial. Maybe they won't. I mean, but, you know, as an entrepreneur, that's just another thing that you have to figure out how you're going to adjust and adapt to. Thrift prices, right? The thrift stores ain't getting no cheaper these days. I don't do a lot of thrifting myself, but I watch enough YouTubers to know that the prices ain't going down. That's for damn sure, right? What else? Retail arbitrage, online arbitrage in general. Those prices ain't right. Stores ain't lowering their prices either. I mean, if you go to places like Ollie's and all of that, those prices is up, you know. And what I've been noticing about a lot of those prices is that they still a little bit lower than, you know, your online platforms and stuff. But they're not making it where you got really any room for no profit. After the fees and stuff, you really ain't making nothing. But there still are people out there making a living off of retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, and they're doing really well. So, and they're just adjusting and adapting. And so, as far as I'm concerned, man, the future of reselling, honestly, despite all of that, as far as I'm concerned, the future of reselling looks great. Despite the fact that whether you want to, you know, say we're in a recession, we're headed for a recession, and the economy's going to get worse, there are opportunities in everything. And unfortunately, even when there's layoffs and a bad economy, a depressed economy, there's even opportunities in that. However, though, what I do think when it comes to the future of reselling is this. Reselling is going to survive. It's going to be around forever. As long as there's things to be sold, as long as there's a demand for, you know, secondhand products, not even just secondhand products, even newer products at a good price point. But as long as there's a demand for secondhand products at a good price that people can have nice things without having to pay a crazy price for it, reselling ain't going nowhere. But as far as the future of reselling when it comes to the sorts of items that are profitable, that's going to be changing dramatically, of course. And so especially if the rates are going up, if this USPS thing don't work out the way, you know, some of us would want it to, the future of reselling is going to change in that aspect to where you're just going to have to adjust your business model. If you want to do this long term, then you have to be thinking that way. Reselling is not going anywhere. What's going to change is the types of items that are profitable to sell. Whereas you may have been able to, you know, like even with the thrift stores where you can go there and you can get this and you can get that and make all this profit like it used to be maybe pre-COVID. It ain't that way no more, right? Same way with retail arbitrage. And so whatever type of, you just got to kind of, you might have to be more specific about what you want to sell. You can niche down, whatever, become more of an expert in the type of item that you're offering. And it might take a little more work. And so what this might do is this may make it, I don't want to say less competitive, but maybe it'll make it less saturated. Let's say that. Less saturated in the sense that because of the fact you'll have to probably put more work and effort into what it takes to be successful, people may not be wanting to go through all of that as much. I think that the people who are willing to scale their business, right, who are willing to become more expert in the types of items that they sell, in the types of niche that they sell in, and you know, things like that, who can source, who can find sources, they can get bulk items at a lower price. And I mean, this is the case regardless, but I think even more so going forward when it comes to the future of reselling, those are the people that are going to be more successful. I was reading through some comments in a YouTube video, and I forget whose channel I was watching, but you know, they were just talking about, the conversation was pretty much around, you know, this type of thing as far as reselling goes, and future reselling and so on and so forth. And then one of the commenters said, oh, it's all big sellers and this and that, and kind of in a way where they're blaming the big sellers, basically, I guess, for being big sellers and messing up the market, if that makes sense, which it doesn't. And I responded to that comment a little bit, and what it just made me think about is this: like, if the name of the game is to grow your business, to be competitive, then that's the name of the game. And if you ain't willing to play that game, then you might not want to get involved, right? If that ain't the game you're willing to play, then you might not want to get involved in the first place. I mean, it's just that simple. But that might be how it's going. It's going to probably depend on the niche that you in and things like that, right? But you can't blame the bigger sellers for figuring out what it's going to take to eliminate their competition and increase their profits and grow their business. You can't blame them for that. I mean, I don't. And the way I look at it, because I'm a competitive person, I got a competitive personality. I'm just like, okay, well, if this is something I'm going to do, then I'm not going to, like, I got to figure it out. And if this is what they're doing, then I got to step my game up. Simple as that. And if I don't, if I just want to do this recreationally, and this ain't even geared toward maybe people who want to do this recreationally or for fun or anything like that. If you're just doing this as a hobby for fun, then you ain't even involved in none of this. I'm talking about people who want to do this as a business and serious about it. And you can do this as a business part-time too. So just because you're doing it part-time don't mean it ain't a business. It's just a part-time business. And of course, if you're doing it full-time, then I will assume that it's a business to you. But either way, as a business owner, small business owner, whatever you want to call it, then you got to be thinking that if this is the way you see things going in the niche or in the industry, then what do you have to do to be competitive? What do you have to do to ensure the survival of your business? This is what you need to be asking yourself. What do I need to do to ensure the survival of my business? And if that means I need to sell more stuff to survive, then you got to sell more stuff to survive. Which leads to the problem of, how do you get the stuff to sell? Look, that's all up to you to figure out. These are questions that I ask myself all the time and that I'm always trying to focus on and work on, because I'm determined to make this thing work and just to make it happen, man. And so, as far as I'm concerned, despite the layoffs, despite prices going up, despite shipping and things like that, maybe, going up and maybe not being in our favor, I think the future of reselling is good. I think the future of reselling is bright. I think that there is going to be a lot of opportunities coming for those who are looking, for those who are paying attention, for those who are putting in the time and the effort, for those who are becoming experts in their categories, in their niches. There's going to be a lot of opportunities. And those who aren't, those who are just kind of like focusing more on the negative than the positive, those who are paying more attention to what's wrong with the industry instead of what can I do to make my business better, well then, those people are going to die off. And thank God. Seriously. We need some of these people who just don't know what's going on and be out the way. It's like when I go to the gym, right? I hate going to the gym during peak hours, man, because like there's all these people. they be just holding up the machines, yo. Like they be on the machine, they got their phone in their hand, and it's like 5 minutes between the set. And it's like, bro, can you go over there and look at your phone and let me use this machine? Or this is what I really hate, right? I'll be using something, right? I might be using some ropes or whatever, right? And then for me, like between sets, I don't like to stand still. So I feel like always got to be in motion. So for me, between my sets, I might take a little walk around the machine, or I might just kind of, move around a little bit. And so I might do a little small lap around the machine. By the time I get back, somebody's there. It's like, and they ain't even doing nothing. Depending on how I feel, man, sometimes I say something, and sometimes I might be like if I was almost done anyway with that particular thing, I might just move on and be like, they in the way. They in the way, bro. They in the way. They don't know what they doing. They just kind of like let the people who serious about this do what they got to do. And that's what annoys me. Like, it's one thing if you serious about it and you just kind of using the machine and you there for a minute. Like, I don't even care about that. It's just when you ain't even doing what you supposed to be doing. And so that's how I feel about a lot of resellers, man. They in the way. They price tanking. They kind of like just making it harder for those of us who are serious, who trying to get this work out, right? Who trying to put this work in. And as far as I'm concerned, those people, they can go bye-bye. A lot of people, they just want you to tell them what to buy, where to buy it, this and that. And this ain't got nothing to do with like trying to learn and stuff. I'm not talking about that. I love people who want to learn so they can do things for themselves, right? The type of people who are like, man, look, you ain't even got to give me the fish. Just teach me how to fish and I'll figure it out for myself, right? Just teach me how to fish. Show me what you do to catch the fish, and I got it from there. Those are the type of people I like. Not the, hey man, you got something to eat. You got time for that. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as far as like the future of reselling and things like that. Like, reselling ain't going nowhere. I think it is going to be more and more competitive. However, I don't think it's going to necessarily be like, I'm not focused on the people who ain't serious. Like, when I go to the gym, yeah, there's people on my way, but like, that don't stop my workout. That don't I might have planned to use that machine at that moment, but because, they're in the way, they're doing whatever, I'm going to go do something else. And that's still going to be me working toward my goal of staying in shape. And I kind of feel like you got to take that approach of reselling. It's like, all right, you got some of these people in the way, you got the price tankers, but what can you do in your business to where those things really don't affect the growth of your business and the health of your business? Just let them do them. Look, they're going to go out of business and they're going to be out of the way soon enough. Trust me. Let them cry and whine and do all that they're doing and get them out the way. But that ain't what you need to be focusing on when it comes to your reselling business. You need to just fight that feeling to get involved in that and get involved in the crying game and always be figuring out, what can I do to make it to where this doesn't affect me and I just shoot past these people regardless. And so I don't care about the big sellers. I'm trying to be one of those big sellers. That's my focus. If the big sellers is the ones making it harder for the small sellers, then I need to become a big seller. That's how I look at it. I need to be a big seller because apparently that's the way to go, right? Nah, I ain't trying to be the small seller crying and whining and complaining about stuff. All right, and that kind of takes me to, I was going to save this one for last, but I'm going to go to this one next, which is the success rates of small businesses. Now, I already said that kind of like we wouldn't be technically considered a small business, right? Chamber of Commerce, the chamberofcommerce.org website. I'm going to read some stuff from here. All right, so they technically classify, they say, according to the U.S. Small Business Administration definition of a small business, small businesses are defined by firm revenue which ranges from $1 million to over $40 million. Additionally, it is determined by the number of employees, ranging from 100 to over 500 employees. So, for example, a roofing contractor earning an annual revenue of $16.5 million or less is considered a small business. All right, so that's just their technical definition. But here's what I want to go over, though, that's important, and that is the survival rate of small businesses. So if this is what they consider a small business or consider a small business, for us who are self-employed running these small businesses of reselling, I mean, it might be a little more amplified, okay? But look at this. We're going through 5 years, okay, of being in business. So in year one, the survival rate for a business in operation in year one is 21.9%, which isn't bad, That's really good. So you got a really good chance of surviving through your first year of business, okay? But now by year two, that goes up to 31.8%. All right, so now you went from 21 to 31. So your chances in year two increase by 10% that you're going to fail. All right. Now by year three, they got it at 60.3% chance that your business is going to fail by year three. That's very telling. It's saying something. And of course, there's a lot of factors that go into why a small business might not make it past the third year. I mean, I got my thoughts on some of that anyway, but just think of that. You shoot up from year one, you go from 20% all the way up to over 50% by year three. At year four, that kind of goes down. If you can make it past that year three hump, that kind of goes down a little bit to 45.7%. And then year five, all the way on, that kind of, starts to change. But if you just want to go to that first 5 years, you pretty much got a 50% chance of failing in the first 5 years of being in business. And so for us, you need to consider that. And so this is why you need to be planning out. You need to have a 5-year projection of what you're going to do. And here's one of the reasons that I think that most businesses fail, right? Within those first 5 years. And I think it's poor planning. Poor planning. People they underestimate their revenue that they might do. They underestimate their expenses. They underestimate what it takes, even sweat equity wise. Some people lazy, they get into it and they realize, hey, they don't want to do the work. They underestimate how much discipline it takes, how much self-discipline and self-motivation. I think those are two of the main factors that influence people not making it past that first 5 years, man. Self-discipline, self-motivation. I think those are big. Because if you can't motivate yourself and discipline yourself, especially in the hard times, you ain't gonna make it. And just being creative, having a plan, having a schedule, because you're going to, in those 5 years, encounter some difficulties. You're going to encounter some problems. There's going to be things that you have to change. Inflexibility. A lot of people just ain't willing to change. Continuing education. There's a lot of professions where you have to have continuing education year by year. You got to redo certifications and things like that. Every year you got to recertify and take tests and things like that. And it's for a reason, right? You have to be up to date with what is going on. It's no different in reselling. You have to have continuing education. You got to be up to date with what is going on. You got to know what's going on. You got to be ready to pivot at a moment's notice. And that's just the start. That's just the beginning. And so reselling wise, if you're not, like for me, I've been doing makeup and cosmetics and health and beauty, right? It's been profitable. I haven't had a down year. It's a grind by myself. And so I'm trying to, what I've been trying to do before I hire somebody is that I've been trying to make sure that I got all my processes down and the main kinks worked out. I don't want to bring somebody into chaos and then end up causing myself more chaos, right? But eventually I'm gonna have to do it. But also at the same time, there's obstacles. Let's put it that way. Number one, you do have to do volume with a lot of this stuff, right? But number two is, mixing in some higher dollar items. But then number three for me is I have to also be willing to look at other ways that I source and other categories and other things. And so for instance, while I've been doing really well with it, especially on Walmart, I'm also looking at now branching out into other departments. Maybe we're going into summertime. We're already in spring. We're going into summertime. So things like home and gardening are going to be popular, right? And so I have to be willing to. I can't just be like, yeah, okay, well, this is what was working. Yeah, you want to stick with what worked, but businesses that succeed, that make it past that 3, 4, 5 year mark, they're businesses that are always thinking forward. I remember watching a documentary on like Exxon and all of them. It wasn't putting them in a good light. It was talking more about how they kind of like lied about, some of the stuff going on and this and that. I don't want to really get into that. But the one thing that I remember thinking is like how way back in the early 90s and stuff, they had already known about some of the climate issues, and they had already been doing research and putting money into research in different areas. And it's like they was like 20, 30 years ahead already, where they should be drilling, what they can do here, how the business might change there. And on a much, much smaller scale, of course, that is how you need to be looking at your business. You have to be thinking 5, 10, 15 years ahead if you plan on doing this that long. If not, then fine. But if this is your business, then you need to be thinking on how you're going to survive. What if there's a recession? What if the item you're selling automatically tanks, and because of the price tankers, the people that don't know what they're doing? What if that tanks? How are you going to hedge against these threats? I guarantee you, most resellers that claim to be full-time resellers have not done a SWOT analysis on their business, have not done projections for their business, and don't have a 3, 4, 5 year plan for their business. They're just doing it. They're just doing it. And those are going to be the ones that, if they continue with that behavior, then those are probably going to be the ones that fall victim to those statistics right there. And I don't want to be that person. And so the success rate, the odds is against you. The longer you're in business, the odds is against you. And how you going to beat the odds? That's the question. How you going to beat the odds? The way you're going to beat the odds is always, you got to do more than the next man. It ain't just about working harder. It's more about working smarter, right? Being the one that has projections, being the one that has a plan, being the one that's always learning, constantly networking, communicating with people, looking at the state of affairs when it comes to the world. And I remember somebody was saying something on their video, people was making comments. I think this was on Arena Vision's channel. They was commenting on how he's getting kind of political in his videos. And he kind of made the point basically that, how can I not be when these things that are going on in our world that's affecting our business, they're political. And he had a point, right? It's like, if these decisions that are being made has an effect on our economy and on things and on commerce, if these political decisions have an effect on that, then in a sense, yes, this is political. This is political. That don't mean I have to become involved in politics, but I do got to understand what's going on in politics, because those politics have a direct effect or indirect effect on my business. And so my decisions, the decisions I made about how I'm going to proceed right now, I might have to change that up a little bit, depending on what policies are in effect or what's going on. I need to be aware of that. And I might have to change up what I'm doing. And so, that's just kind of how I feel like all of that is kind of tied in, even going back to people tanking prices and, just running artificial sales because they're trying to get business, all the way up to the future of reselling and all that, and the success rate, basically the lifespan of your business. If you want your business lifespan to outlive the stats, then you're going to have to operate outside of the stats. You're going to have to operate outside of the things that, fall within the spectrum of those stats. That most people, the majority of people, they're operating inside of the aspect of things that fall in those stats. Here's some of the reasons why business failed within this amount of time frame. Well, then you got to ask yourself, well, if they're failing within that time frame, what can I do to not fit that description, right? And then, having said that, let's move on to liquidation in and of itself. Not everybody sells liquidation, but as a reseller, there's all sorts of ways that you can make a profit. And a lot of us do make a profit by selling liquidation. And so for me, liquidation can be very, very, very lucrative and profitable. And you do got to follow some rules. And I'm really not about to make this a video so much about liquidation and how to, sell liquidation, but there's a few things that you should know. Number one is that, and this is important, okay? You're going to win some and you're going to lose some. It's just the name of the game, man. It's just the name of the game. You have to come in expecting that and knowing that. You're going to win some and you're going to lose some. And the question is, how can you win more than you lose, right? How can you win more than you lose? And number one is doing your homework. Whether it's the platform you buying off of, whatever your source is, you got to do your homework. You got to connect with people and businesses that have good reputations. That don't mean you always going to get the best stuff, but that do mean that the majority of the time you're going to get really good product. And that's a process. That's not like overnight, man. You'd be real lucky to find that overnight. You're going to have to put in some work. And it's just a continual, and here's the continuing education thing. This isn't a static business, right? It's dynamic. It's organic. It's ever flowing. Like, you have to always be moving with traffic. You can't get stuck, man. You can't get stuck. If you get stuck, you're gonna get left behind. And so with liquidation, the name of the game is sources. And to him that has the most reliable sources goes the spoils. Okay? I mean, that's just a fact. So putting aside the fact that you're gonna have some bad buys, you can't let that stop you. And you just gotta keep on kind of like searching. But that also means that you have to have cash flow. Because when you get those bad buys, the worst thing you can do is let that stop. Like, you can't stop at that point and say, oh man, I got a bad buy. That momentum, you got to keep your momentum going. You got to, oh man, I got a bad buy. Number one, soon as you recognize you got a bad buy, you got to get rid of that stuff ASAP. You got to get rid of it ASAP. Do not hold on to things that are a bad buy, trying to squeeze out every last penny. If you got to sell that stuff at a loss, man, sell it, get rid of it, get the cash back, and move on with your life. I think this is probably one of the most important things that I can tell you when it comes to liquidation. When you realize you got a bad buy, you got to get rid of it ASAP, even if it's at a quote-unquote loss. And you got to get that cash back and move on, man, and learn your lesson. Do not hold on to it thinking you on, man, maybe if I try this or put it on this platform, or maybe if, man, look, bulk that stuff up, get rid of that shit. Seriously. So one of the things you got to do in liquidation is you always got to be looking for good sources. Expect that you are going to win some, you are going to lose some, but the better your source, the more you'll win. When you do get a bad buy, you got to get rid of it ASAP. And even if that means bulking it up, selling it at a loss, the most important thing is to get rid of it. Keep the good stuff flowing. When you find something good, hold on to it, man. And I don't really want to make it sound like it's negative. It has a negative connotation, but you got to milk the cow. You got to milk the cow. When you find a good source, man, hold on to that thing and get as much as you can out of it for as long as you can from it. Like, that's just, I mean, you would think that would be common sense, right? But don't let all your purchasing decisions either be based on like price. Like, I think some people think that because something costs more, or maybe because something's cheaper, that that's a better deal. I think this is definitely, when it comes to liquidation, a mistake a lot of new people make is that, oh, this is cheaper, so this is a good deal. I'm gonna get this. It's the reason that stuff is cheaper, man. I learned this the hard way. There's a reason that stuff is cheaper. Truckloads, those value truckloads, there's a reason it's a value truckload. You might say to yourself, man, I ain't spending $25,000 on a liquidation truckload. Well, guess what? The person that is gonna come out on top, and you want to spend $2,000-3,000 on a truckload. You go, hey, get what you pay for. I'm gonna tell you that when it comes to liquidation, bro, you get what you pay for. And so I used to think that, man, I used to be like, well, this is cheaper and I get more, right? Not only is this cheaper, but I get more for the price. Yeah, you get that stuff and you be, by the time you done going through it and all of that, it ain't even worth it, man. You done lost time and you put yourself behind. You put yourself so far behind, man. And so what you don't want to do, because speed and time is of the essence. Processing, getting it in. You got to have a process for processing it. You got to have a process for sorting it, for categorizing everything. And you got to have a plan for what you're going to do with everything, which means you need outlets. You need multiple outlets. What are you going to do, of course, with the good stuff, right? Where are you going to sell it at? Where can you get the most for the good stuff? The stuff that's in either new condition, things like that. And for the not so good stuff, what are you going to do with that stuff? Do you have an outlet for that? Maybe you can get a little bit of money out of it. Like for me, I'll do things like, I'll make boxes and I'll just sell them on Marketplace real cheap. I think one of the things I'm going to try to do this year for some of the stuff that I've been having that hasn't moved for a while, I've been taking it down off of eBay, so my store is shrinking because a lot of stuff I don't want up on there no more. Yard sell it, just yard sell it, get some of that money back, $1, $2, $3, whatever. Get some of that money back and move on with my life. But you got to have a plan for what am I going to do with the good stuff? What am I going to do with the less than good stuff? And what are you going to do with the garbage? What are you going to do with the garbage? Don't waste your time on garbage. Don't waste your time on garbage. That's another lesson you need to know about reselling and how to be profitable. Put your time and effort where it's going to yield a return. Focus on the things that's going to make you money. All right? The 80-20 rule, man. You got to follow the 80-20 rule, which is 20% of the things you do in your business is going to bring you 80% of your profits. And conversely, there's 80% of the stuff in your business that really ain't making you a lot of money. And I think a lot of times that's what people focus on, that 80%. And so they don't have the time to grow their business like they could. And so you got to figure out what that 20% is that's going to grow your business the fastest, or it's going to be just, more effective in growing your business. And then figure out how you can kind of maybe outsource that other 80% and just focus on what's going to grow. And at some point, sorting items and things like that just won't be worth your time and effort. Even if you just bring somebody in just to sort for you, that's better than doing it yourself. Another thing about liquidation, if you want to be successful with it, you can't shop from the sources. that everybody use. Trust me when I tell you, if you use the sources that everybody using, like the easy sources, if you think that you're going to use those sources to have a successful reselling business, then you in for a rude awakening. One, that's the stuff that saturates the market. And because the market is saturated, and because those people usually don't know what they're doing yet, that's the stuff that's going to sell for low margins, and if any profit at all. And so for liquidation, you need to have separators. There's a whole bunch of separators that you can create, but a few things that you can do just right offhand is, number one, have a sales tax license. Reseller's license, sales tax license, it's all the same. Get one of those, because then that allows you to be able to source from sources that the majority of resellers cannot source from. And you want to get away from being one of those majority resellers. You don't want to be those people, because those are the people that are getting stuff from the places that everybody else can get them. And those are usually the types of items that either sell for low margins, become oversaturated, people start tanking the price, and you just start having all types of issues, right? So get a reseller's license, right? Then that opens up more doors and avenues. 2, yes, you can be a everything seller. There's nothing wrong with that at all, and you can be very successful at it. If you want to grow your business, past that though, you're going to have to become an expert at something. And yes, even with liquidation, you can become an expert, because there are categories of liquidation that you can buy. You can sell anything, any type of liquidation, right? There's very successful businesses that just sell truckloads of mixed merchandise from here and there and wherever. That's one aspect of it, but that's what they stick with, and they're experts at that thing. And yeah, they might sell some of that stuff on e-commerce platforms, but that's what they do. And so whatever it is, whatever type of liquidation you want to sell, don't keep buying from all these places that just anybody can buy from. Get you a sales tax license and try to focus in on certain types. And then when you can be successful at that, maybe you start branching out a little more. But you're going to lose money if you just buy. Maybe you buy this type here this day, and you buy that type there that day, because you can't focus in on what sources are the best for you. And that's the problem, is that with liquidation, you never know what you're going to get. And so if you want to be more certain about what you get, you got to know who to buy from. And so let's just say I'm into baby types of items, right? I want to find who I can get the best baby type of liquidation items from first. And then once I can narrow that down, I'm successful at that, maybe I start looking at some other stuff. But now I got the cash flow, and if something goes wrong, I can cover that expense, right? But if all I'm doing today, I'm getting baby, and tomorrow I'm getting makeup, and next day I'm getting, shoes or whatever. Well, hell, what if all those purchases are bad purchases? Boom, you might have just put yourself out of business, right? Seriously. And you don't think it can happen? Read some of the horror stories in the groups. It can happen. And it can happen like that. Trust me. And so you kind of want to hedge against those risks. And the way you do that is kind of just focus in on one area, be successful at that, have some cash flow, have some extra cash, and then you can kind of branch out. But I think that kind of goes just with anything. You know what I mean? It's just at some point, if you want to be serious about it and take it to another level, it's harder to focus on multiple things. It's harder to focus, and this is just a fact, okay? Ask any successful entrepreneur, look at any business model that's successful. They either become successful after they started focusing in on one thing, or that's how they started off in the first place, right? It wasn't, oh, let's do these 100 things and we're going to be successful. No, like you're going to run out of resources. There's going to be too many fires to fight. I mean, it's just common sense almost, right? It's just like if you got 100 things on your mind, you're not focused. And what happens when you're not focused, right? You'll make mistakes and all types of crazy stuff happen, right? When you're not focused on one thing. You say driving. If I'm driving and I'm looking at my phone and I'm trying to adjust this and I'm doing this, what can happen? I can get into an accident because I'm not focused on the road. Okay? Focus on the road. Stop trying to do 100 things at one time. Focus on one thing. Be successful at that one thing. Even in liquidation, be successful dealing with one type of liquidation at least. Find good, reliable suppliers that can provide you with good items that sell in that area, in that category. And then maybe once you get the cash flow going and you got that down pat, boom, maybe you can find other types, but don't try to do too much too fast, because trust me when I tell you, you can lose your shirt. All right, and I only got a few more items left to get out. And so I'm gonna kind of end this. This is a little longer than I wanted it to be. But let me know if you like these types of videos. I honestly don't mind doing it this way so far, because it gives me a chance to kind of get out a lot of stuff that I be thinking anyway. And I feel like it could be helpful, you know, to some people. Look, honestly, liquid or reselling in general, it's not for the faint of heart, man. It's really not for the faint of heart. So if you really want to be successful at it, you got to put in the time, you got to put in the effort. But that's with anything in life. Don't let the naysayers distract you. Don't let them discourage you. Don't let the, reselling, it's the end of reselling because of the USPS, or it's the end of reselling because of the recession, or it's the end of reselling because of this and that. And the reselling ain't going nowhere. You know what's going somewhere? Those people. Those people is going somewhere. And not fast enough either, if I might add. But don't listen to those people. Get around people who are positive. Get around people who are problem solvers. Get around people who are innovators. Get around people who can hold you accountable. You want to be around those type of people. You don't want to be around the naysayers. You don't want to be around the doomsdayers and just the people who always see the cup as half empty. They're never going to figure out anything except how to kill their business and your business at the same time. And they're going to feel pretty damn good about it, because then they don't have to feel bad about themselves failing, and they can look at you and everybody else that they helped bring down and say, well, hell, he can't do it either. He didn't do it either. And it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy thing where you set yourself up for failure, and because you kind of like brought other people down with you, is validation that you was right, when really you wasn't even right at all. Nowhere even near it, because there's too many people being successful at it. And so those are the people you need to be around, talking to, studying, and things like that. And don't just limit your knowledge to reselling though. Don't just limit it. Study business in general. Some of the stuff I was watching videos on lately was the subscription business model and how that works. Not that, I don't understand subscription business models, but there's a lot of really, really good information about that out there. I was also watching videos on pricing and consumer behavior as it relates to pricing, branding and consumers, how they look at certain brands and colors and color theory in business. And don't just watch reselling videos on YouTube. Don't limit your knowledge to reselling, okay? Learn throughout the whole spectrum of business. Learn sales psychology, pricing psychology, anything related to business. Because the more you do this, the more you give yourself a leg up on your competition, and you start to separate yourself from them. The people that don't do this, they're not going to survive in this, okay? So anyway, I'm going to end this video here because it's long enough. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you hit that notification bell so that you're notified. I'm going to try to step up these videos, man, and try to do some more. And I feel like doing something like this on days when I don't have as many items to ship might be one of the better ways to do it, right? So, yeah. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see y'all again soon.